Esta próxima sessão vai decorrer em inglês. This next session will be held in English, but I'll be giving just a few words in Portuguese, if you allow me. Umas breves palavras em português apenas para saudar uma pessoa que está aqui na sala e que já não vejo há 10 anos e que acho que é apropriado porque é o professor Alcibiades Guedes, que foi meu professor de Supply Chain Management há 10 anos e é o presidente do INEGI, e na pessoa dele peço uma salva de palmas para ele, saudando na pessoa dele todas as pessoas que trabalham no INEGI e que dão um litro e que acho que é apropriado. Não imaginava que ensinar supply chain a um jornalista fosse tão marcante. Nunca mais o vi. Que trauma. Bom, as gargalhadas parece também significam que o catering correu bem. Perguntem ao chefe se ele quer uma transformação digital gratuita esta noite. So, let's continue this in English. It's true, it's a sunny day, 25 degrees outside. And they invited 5 humans in flesh and bone to come on stage and talk about AI and digital transformation, which just suggests that AI is hype, is yada, 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 and when things get really, really hot, you just need 4 good humans to speak about it. Let's get straight into it. We are going to talk about roadmap, about challenges, and about opportunities. And another way to present our speakers on board today is to say that we have 2 tech guys from the industry, and then we have 2 tech guys, founders and co-founders, I would say startups, at least SMEs, digital data, SMEs, tech-focused. So we are going to hopefully hear about the roadmaps from 2 companies or 2 groups, and how smaller companies working with them, not specifically with these ones, but with others, can help them what they see as an outsider, as another stakeholder in all this ecosystem. At least we want just to confuse you who are already confused. That's the only thing we need to do to get you back next time we do another session. Reinaldo, I would love to start with you. So you're a CTO for BA Glass. I will ask you everything but about technology. But the first question is about technology. What did it really mean for BA Glass to think that we need a digital transformation? In other words, what does it really mean for BA Glass, for a company that produces glass packaging,
Yes.
digital transformation?
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. Also, Alcibiades INEGI, thank you for being with you here today. I think BA Glass looks at digital transformation as really an opportunity to be more competitive. So we face the normal issues from industry, so difficult to attract people to work in the manufacturing area, hard, heavy industry, and we wanted to make the life of our people easier, make our processes better. So we invest in this area, aiming to really have a much simpler process, with having more people involved and willing to work with us. So that's the transformation we are looking. So it's a tool, it's a means for us to deliver more with less resources, but in the typical way, be more competitive.
So you did not start from the scratch, of course, but where did you start when the company decided, okay, we need to have a roadmap, we need digital transformation, this is the way, we need a roadmap. Where did you start, actually?
Okay. We start first with isolated things. So we have several plants in Europe, and we have different sites. So everybody tried to do their things. And then we realized that it was not working. So a lot of things were trying to be done, but not in an organized way. So 5 years ago, we started to have a group, a team dedicated to this. Okay, so initially it was very difficult to attract people because trying to figure out, now we want a data scientist who work alone, right? Nobody wanted to join us. We did a lot of interviews, no matter what you tried to offer as we want to make things different, but it was difficult to attract that. Suddenly we start to have 1 people, 2, 3, okay, now we have 7 data scientists and additional 4 people in terms of IT to help with sensoring and automation. Okay? Mm-hmm. I think for now it's enough. Of course, we need to have more resources to develop, but it helped a lot to have a team, a focus on this 100%. we passed different things. So we had not the structured data, we had no idea. So first time we wanted to work with INEGI or others, we gave the data in a pen. Okay, it was our data, so take it, start working on it. Okay, it was more or less like this. 5 years ago, okay, so was not good enough, of course. So all the things were good to start, were really great to start understanding the same language, to understand structure.
Sorry to interrupt, but what were you aiming for? Were you aiming for immediately changing things in the operations, or were you just trying to digitize easy things to digitize? What was the mindset at that point when you started?
Okay, we are quite pragmatic. Okay, I think manufacturing needs to deliver. Okay, so we not get confused. Okay, so we're not doing research by the research or by the goal of that. So we really need to deliver. But from the beginning, we understood that this was going to take longer. Okay, so when we decided to have this team dedicated to this and talk with the plants about these production sites, we established. So basically, we tried to hear their pains and try to engage the people on the floor to work on these things to have more success and look to what others are doing around this. Okay? So that's the approach that we did.
Now, looking back now, 5 years after, if you had to name the best option and the worst option that you did on those first moments, what would you say?
I think we didn't move fast enough. I'm really unsatisfied with the speed that we do, because we have to do a lot of things, fail a lot of times, really insist on this, to start having more robust things. So speed is critical, and not being afraid to kill the initiatives that don't work. We have things that we put a lot of effort, and after 2 months not working well, we abandon them. But that's hard to take, right? Because we put a lot of resources there, we spend a lot of time, and things are not working. Okay, so.
Angel, how similar or different is your experience at Sonae from this little summary that Reinaldo just shared with us?
Well, hello everyone, and thank you, INEGI, for the invitation and giving us the opportunity to share our experience. So in our case, if I'm honest, we started because we have factories that work 24/7. And when you come to the factory on Monday, and you start seeing the problems you had the night before and Saturday, or you had to make a inspection or a detective work to know what was the problem. So we started, we say, okay, we need the data to only go to the data and know what happened. So that was the starting point, and then we start reading. Now, in the industry case, is to read from the machines. That more or less all the data are in the PLCs. So we read all the PLCs. So we started with that and giving tools to the people, not only to the technical people, but also to the operator, to give them the opportunity to look at easily only visual inspection in the graphs, to see the correlations between what they did and the result. So I think that was the first step in this journey.
So it was actually a really practical problem that you were trying to solve.
Yes.
Okay. And after that, how do you develop until you get to a roadmap? I imagine that you had a roadmap for this path.
Yes.
So what was the rationale there?
That was the beginning. But then we structure better, and with the experience of this more or less 8-9 years that we are working on digital transformation in industry, I think the foundations, in our case, that we have discovered it is key. First could be the strategic alignment. So this is very important to make this journey in a standard way and pushing everybody in the same direction. The second, I could suggest collaboration. So I think this is a company-wide program. It is not a program from one department. So you have to involve a lot of people and it is important that everybody is available to help and to collaborate. So I think that is also key. Then technology, of course. So you have to choose the right architecture to scale quick. So when you make the pilot or the first pilot or the first project, then how to go quicker to the rest of the plants. For that is very important, the architecture. Key also the collaboration again with IT and OT. So I think that is key for having the best of both worlds. And to enrich the data you have, so through sensorization. So this is a never-ending story. So you can make models with the data you have, but if you install a new sensor, that models are going to improve. So you have to enrich the data you have. So this is important work. And as the key word is transformation, I think you need also to complement this with a good program of awareness and training. So I think that is very important. So it is not just to put tools, digital tools to the people. It is also to listen them, to be with them, to communicate very well and a lot of times, and follow up the startup of these tools.
In this morning, we heard a lot of interesting things about AI. So, and nowadays we're hearing about AI every time. We have to discuss AI with our kids, with our colleagues, with our bosses, with everybody. For Sonae Arauco, is AI something that you really need to focus on this point when we are messing up generative AI with other AI tools, or are you just staying quiet, let the kids play with generative AI, we're just waiting for the agentic AI? What is the spirit in Sonae at this point?
I think everybody has to play to understand how is the
how would you use,
toy.
or how are you using ChatGPT, for example, or something like that?
In our case, what I would say is that, as I think this morning also was said here, that there are a lot of solutions, not only AI. So I think it is important to find the best solution to a problem. Sometimes it could be a first principle model that works better than AI model, depending on the information you have from the model. So you have a lot of knowledge of that process, probably you can make a first principle model, and has the advantage that it simulates every case. In the case of AI, it's going to predict well if the case you want to predict it is inside the data set you train the data.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to look for the right tool. So and in our roadmap we have, and as I said, we started only analyzing the data, not making models. Then,
but you're not using generative AI at this point at Sonae Arauco.
In Sonae Arauco, we related to generative AI. Only we have one example of a chatbot for support in the technical use of some software.
Okay.
So it's very local. The experience very we have with generative. Of course, we are start using in more structured way, but for the moment it is not our.
Okay. Clara, I'll get back to you quite quickly. Clara, so this idea, transition, shifting, transformation, transitioning, going from one point to a company that has to go from one point to another. How many confused companies and people do you meet each week when they have to discuss with you how to get there? Do they usually know where they want to go to, or is it a conversation you have to begin even at the starting point, saying, we are here, we still don't know where we want to go, but we understand that we need to transform our business model or the way we operate.
Yeah. So thank you so much for inviting me. So this is probably our daily day, because we've been talking for the past years with a lot of people, a lot of different people from different profiles, areas, verticals, industries, and so on. So just to explain you a little bit better, we are Inductiva.AI. We are a startup company that is trying to contribute to this transformation of building the future of scientific computing. So, and for that we have, and we developed a platform that allows, and I know that allows because we have nowadays users, paying users, scientists and engineers to simulate everything in the world, everything they want to simulate, the physical world. So from molecular dynamics to coastal dynamics, new materials. That's what our platform allows. Our platform is a Python API that is nowadays integrated with 24 open source simulators from physical models in this range that I told you. So very, very, very diverse, energy, new materials, and so on. And fluid dynamics. Most part of our simulators are also from fluid dynamics, and our platform also allows all those simulations to run in cloud native infrastructure. So nowadays we are only working with Google Cloud, and our users are running in our account in Google Cloud, but it's one of the challenges that we are tackling nowadays. We are becoming multi-platform for different kind of reasons. So we are integrating with supercomputers. We are also integrating with other cloud providers like AWS or Azure or whatever, Arauco and so on. And we are also facing challenges regarding with, and this is super interesting in the last months, regarding with the sovereignty of where the companies want to run their data and generate their data. So we are nowadays integrating also with cloud providers that are not so known, OVH Cloud and so on, here in Europe. So that's what we are doing. That's what we have. We have clients from industry and from academia nowadays, from 10 different kind of countries. So that's what we have. We have a lot of challenges. And why did we start thinking on this platform? When we started Inductiva, we had a dream. We are 3 co-founders, me, Hugo Penedões, and Luís Sarmento, both of them coming from AI world. Luís from large language models in Amazon and Google, and Hugo from DeepMind. He was involved in a very, very interesting project that actually last year was the Nobel Prize of Chemistry, the AlphaFold. This allowed us to discuss a lot, and the idea was to create a company, a research company, in merging those fields of machine learning and to tackle scientific and engineering problems. So that was how we started. And in a short time, we discovered 3 things. The first one was that to train machine learning models, it was really tough to integrate with those infrastructures, okay, and choose the right machines and so on. The second one was the scarcity of data, and there's a lot of people probably today talking about data, and data is really scarce, mainly in industry, to train those machine learning models. So this was our huge
Clara,
plan.
just,
Sorry.
pardon me to interrupt. Data is scarce or good data is scarce in industry?
You have a lot of data, and as we discussed, you have, or I see the world like this regarding the data. You have those large language models, okay, that are running, and they are running with all the data that we put during all the last years in the internet and so on. So this is available data, data that you can buy and do whatever you want. And you have the other side. And in order to achieve some breakthroughs in science and engineering, you really need data. Even if you are working in academia or in the industry, there's a lot of challenges that need accurate data. And it's really tough to manage data and to have big data sets and accurate data sets to be trained by those models.
Thank you so much, Clara. I'll get back to you soon. Nuno, what are the big challenges when you are approached by companies seeking for your help, and also, of course, very quickly introduction to your company and what you do?
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, first of all. Yes, so I work at, I'm one of the co-founders of DareData. DareData is started to be a professional services company in the fields of data and AI specifically. And we did focus at the time, it was 6-7 years ago, in data science. So something that I think vanished from our dictionary. But at that time, we were called to solve problems from companies that were trying to start with some machine learning in their processes. And I think the problem that we were trying to solve at that time is still there, which is, I think it's even worse now, because the amount of noise the market is doing regarding AI is creating analysis paralysis in everyone. So we know we have to do something. We have to move. Everybody in the companies we talk have a line item in their budget saying AI, which doesn't mean they know exactly what to do with it. It's becoming more difficult to make choices because the amount of offers that you have is tremendous. So the first thing that I think we do is help companies understand what is the Pareto rule for them. What should be the thing to do first that will generate the most amount of value that actually bring on the stakeholders. And that's a kind of a conquer that you should do inside your company. Because as Reinaldo was saying, the speed for adapting these new technologies is actually key. So if you don't actually are able to take decisions, you'll be stopped. And that will make you not progress in the right direction, which is adopting things in the factory, in the manufacturing areas, or in your services areas. And people that will not do it will fall into those areas that you don't actually have a way to progress. So that's probably the main issue that we're trying to solve. Then we have something much more pragmatic, I would say. So the kind of work that we do is actually building machine learning models, custom machine learning models. That's the professional service we do right now. And we have from manufacturing, banking, to other areas where we do also from POC to prod, which is something that everybody's talking right now. And then we have another area, which is the generative area. And I don't think it's something also to take it lightly.
Why not? Why? Well, generative AI for industries. Are they going to write strategic models via chatbots? I mean, where do you see the capabilities, the chances for using generative AI in big industry companies?
It's a good conversation. So I think, or we have been seeing two changes here. The first one is LLMs bring to the table a reasoning, an artificial reasoning. That's the first block. The second block is interfaces are changing. So everything that we have been talking about interfacing between the manufacturing floor and operation is it's changing at the speed of talk. So from forms to something that is more similar to talk, which is much more natural for us. I'm not saying that everything will change, of course, but now we have a new channel. And so these two things can completely transform the way we look at it, at least at the interface level. For decision makers, that's a tough one. So looking at the generative world as something that has hallucinations and problems to actually fill those gaps, I do think one of the challenges that we have as an industry is to become a little more enterprise level at those topics. So be able to serve models that actually are reliable. That's probably the most difficult part to do. Not just the model by itself, but probably a system of models that are reliable at the end.
So I think one of the most important words in this roundtable title is roadmap. I don't know if you have already built on roadmaps with your clients or if you help them out. What are the key 2-3 things that you have to bear in mind when you're taking on a task of designing or conceiving a roadmap for digital transformation? So Angel already told us a few things, like educating people, choosing correctly your technology, all this stuff. What kind of things, as a startup or as an SME working with bigger clients, what things do you recommend as key?
Yeah. So the kind of clients we have are large span.
Yeah.
So we have from startups to unicorns. We work with companies like TechEver. We work with companies like banking, like Nosh. It is one of our investors right now. But the kind of challenges or roadmap that the companies need to fulfill are mostly related on people, on how to organize people around the objectives. I think that's, and of course, how to organize data, but I do think that the first thing to do is, as I was saying at the beginning, move people to the right positions in order to fulfill it as a factory, or either if you're, so I would say, first, the roadmap can be twofold. You can go for buying or you can go for building. And that's a kind of a decision that you have to make as a company. The second thing, or at least in what areas are you buying and what areas are you building? And the roadmap should be relying on those pillars. Now, if you are building, you have to create a team for that. You have to create a factory of models. You have to create a factory that will actually produce in production results that are business results. So that's the kind of drive that should kind of the corollary on the roadmap. That's not easy to attain, because normally people are not exactly aligned with this principle. And the definition of buying and building is not, it's way more easy to buy and to adapt my small farm, and then the other areas on the company will do the same, and then you have a field of mushrooms. So a kind of an alignment on the roadmap, on how things will happen at a higher stake is fundamental.
Okay. Reinaldo, higher stake, you're on the board. Do you see your own life for the last 5 years in these words by Nuno, in this experience? Was this mostly the things that happened with you in your company when you were building your roadmap?
Yes, a lot. I identify a lot of things, most of them. In fact, starting with the last thing, deciding to buy or build, being manufacturing, we have also typical things from the corporate area, so the services. We decided to focus all digitalization on the manufacturing, is where we believe we add value, so we transform, we make bottles and jars for food and beverage, so our core is manufacture, is build something. in that area, we couldn't find things off the shelf. So we really tried. We learned a lot. We like to copy things that are working, adapt to our reality. Copy, we call benchmark, but it's copying, right? So it's to figure out how to do better and take the better results. But it was very difficult for us to find good examples of that. In the glass industry, there's not a lot, but we looked for steel foundries. We looked for the wood transformation. I remember when I started, I met Angel. Okay, so with this looking around the world, what is available helps a lot. But in the end, we realized that we could not find anything that suited what we needed. So we decided to build this team to start building our own models and try to see how we could get benefit of this technology that was available, okay? With this, of course, starts the matter of what technology to choose, what things to do. Of course, that becomes an issue, right? Because we start not having any. We have data in the standalone system, so all our process is automatized, okay? But it's standing alone, it's not communicating with itself, it's not easy to extract information. So we had plenty of information, but alone, standing there. So the first thing was to try to learn even how to catalog that, how to structure that, first from these pens to local servers, and lately to the cloud. So all this journey to what we are to now, and we are not happy with that yet. So that's, and we are open for the changes on this. But the goal is always to try to increase productivity and make life of the people simpler, easier on this process.
Okay, so let's get into the questions that our audience is also sending us. Thank you for all. I'm not going for the most popular right now, but for the most recent, which I think is the one most suitable for this moment. What are you looking for in an employee to manage this new AI? And what jobs do you predict are opening to this area? So I know that your crystal ball is already out of energy. So I would focus on this first part of this question. What are you looking for in an employee when you have to search for someone to manage this new AI opportunity?
It's a very good question. Because first, it's a profile that is difficult to find. So it's really difficult. But from our point of view, if you are going to do models or AI models to use in the industry, I think it's even more difficult because I would like to have an engineer profile. Let's say not only a computer science profile, but also an industry profile. Why? Because the data comes from the process, comes from the sensors. So if I give you all the data, but you don't know anything about the process, the data could be wrong because the sensor is in the wrong position, or the principle of that sensor is wrong to measure that. So I think, and I know that it's really more difficult to find both things, but or at least we have to combine. Perhaps we can combine in the company profiles that are more computer science, but has to speak to the process engineers because the model you are doing is to the process. So,
Reinaldo, do you want to speak to this question?
Yes.
What kind of characteristics do you seek for when you are trying to hire someone to manage your AI at this point?
As I told you in the beginning, we had a lot of difficulties to attract people. Then as we grew more, the more people want to join and they understand the initiatives that are there and the challenges. I think we start first with engineers, people that like to program, okay, to look to the data, to information. But we also start mixing and changing to involve in those groups people from other areas. So typically from our process area to start becoming trained in working with the data, and the other way around. So, because we believe there's a lot of energy and a lot of growth that comes by mixing the functions. So we expose data scientists to the shop floor and the process, and we bring people from the process to this team. So team is a mix of these things. It's not only from the side of the guys that are able to program or work with that. The other thing we did was that we separated, in order to go faster, from the typical IT team. So normally IT is overloaded with things. Everybody asks everything to IT. And then they don't have time to take care about these things. And these things requires time. It's a slow process. It's not, so you need to have people focus on this. So it's important to dedicate some resources support. Of course, you need to be careful because it's a lot of investment there. So we need to understand what to do. But it's really important to make this separation, at least in the beginning stage. Then if everything goes normal, can go back to the normal infrastructure.
Angel, is the velocity also a thing that you have always in mind when you're trying?
Yes.
Are you also a little bit frustrated, like Reinaldo said, that we were not quick enough at the beginning?
But that is always, everybody wants the things quicker than it is done. So that is normal to work with that pressure. But it is true that in the case of AI, what happens, the models don't scale well. Because if you make a model for one line, for example, for one producing line, then when you go to another one, you have to do the model again. Because it's not going to work with the data from the other line. Because probably they don't have exactly the same sensors in the same places. So, of course, you are going to have some guidelines to make the new model because you can understand what are the key variables. And you look for them in the other plant. But it is not to make one model and go to the other plant, put plug and play. You have to extract the data in the other plant and make the model for the other plant. And so for each model is this process. So for that reason, okay, the model you have to do always different, but if you have a good architecture and a good storage of the data and a good standardization for the variables, then is when you can go quicker for another plant.
Okay.
So,
Nuno, so lack of data or lack of quality of some data, so data is scarce, people are scarce, we need new skills, we need to upskill. Is this really the two problems for companies to do digital transformation, or is it just justifying status quo? Let's get real.
The data problem, right? Okay, I do think data is clearly the source of garbage or the source of good data, so the source of information. And if you go on that direction lightly, you have a problem. But I don't think, in a large scale, that we are missing. I think the data problem is reducing and not increasing.
Okay.
I think that because the amount of use cases that needs data that are very specific are becoming actually very kind of niche. And that is probably more important in the manufacturing industry, actually, because your machine is your machine. So you can't actually have two machines that are exactly the same. So you have to have your data from your machine, and you have to have your own simulations, your own processes, etc. So I think this is critical for manufacturing. But the fact that you now have LLMs that allows you to produce data, synthetic data, is actually reducing the moat of the data for other companies. Let me give you some examples. There were companies some years ago where the specialization of their work or their products was fulfill specialized customer services with reliable answers for a specific vertical, for a specific product. With small training, you now can make an LLM doing that with not much data, way less data than it was needed back in times where you were doing a deep learning model with every data from the beginning until the end. So I do think the moats around the data is reducing. Nevertheless, the industry is actually the area where that is probably not so true.
No, and why is that?
Exactly, because of what I said, because the amount of data that you have to understand deeply your machines, your equipment, is still yours. So you have to still collect it. You have still to be sure that the data is the right one, and against all the other scenarios, that should be your major concern on that part.
So you think that in your experience, you would say that all the manufacturing companies that you've worked with or that you learned about, it's actually harder to deal with the technological legacy than to deal with the human and skilling transformation that you need to do?
Well, that's not probably just in, okay, the skilling transformation is an important point, but the legacy problem of data and the systems is way more difficult to solve. That's probably the reason why we take so much time to actually fast-pace our systems and our models, and that's why we typically mount up a team that is inside IT to solve the problems, to solve the data science problems, because it's easier to get to the data, it's easier to get to the legacy systems. They are the persons that know how to get the data, so just create the small department inside IT. It's typically not the right way to go, as we mentioned.
Clara, would you speak to this, to this thing? So technological legacy on the one side, the human challenge on the other side. What has been your experience? Where do you see things potentially failing or potentially developing better because you're addressing the issues?
I think that I'm an optimist, and from the side of the people and the skilled people that we all need to bring to our teams in order to do this huge transformation, what I feel is that it's being not so tough to bring people not only focused on the technical skills we need, of course, people from software engineering, the most part of them are from software engineering, but also people with super open-minded, you know, and able to look at the mission that I are tackling, helping us to think and rethink and see what can be the solutions, how the future, because everyone spoke today about pace and things change in a week, you know, and we are always thinking and rethinking about, is this the strategy, is this the technology, or is this with more granularity the feature that the market needs, the users need, and I'm having a very, very, very good experience, not only with people that is coming from Portugal, Portuguese skilled and talented people, but also from outside. And I think this is also the magic source here, is not only to mix teams where you have very skilled technological people, but also people with different kind of mindsets and with a cultural different backgrounds, and they really, really think in a different way. So I think that this mix is the magic sauce to tackle and solve all those problems within the companies, within the world.
So let's hear the two guys from the companies. So legacy, tech legacy, or human legacy? What has been, or what has the biggest impact when you solve or when you address the issue on the pace of transformation?
When I speak about legacy, it's more about systems.
Systems.
But the data comes from sensors. So at the end is how you read that to have all in a common platform, for example. So when you use legacy systems, perhaps you can have silos of information. So that is a problem. But now I think you have a lot of ways to overcome that. So even
You have to overcome that because you have agentic AI on your door, so you need to integrate everything if you want to have an agentic AI, doesn't it?
you are speaking about agentic AI, that sounds very well, with PLCs. That is another world. So I think to read data, you don't need agentic AI. You need a protocol to read and to put all in the same place. That is the important thing. Then when you have all in the same place, it's easy to make a model with all the variables that can influence
The outcome.
So I think it's, in our case, when we speak about the data problem, it's because you don't have the same amount of all the variables. Perhaps all that you have a sensor, you can have all the information you need, because you can start taking data milliseconds or a second or what you need. You have much more than enough. The problem is that if you want to put that in context, for example, you want to compare your quality, then you need lab data. And in the lab, they are not so quick. They don't make the tests in milliseconds. So your bottleneck is the lab. So you only can use the data for making models when you have, if you are trying to make a model for equality, you only can use the data for the process, all that data you have, but you can only use when you have a lab test. That is what we say that we are lack of data.
Of data. Okay, Reinaldo, and your take on this?
What we are experiencing, what we are feeling, is I think we have issues with both, of course, as I think everybody. But we want these tools in digitalization to help us grow, okay, to standardize the procedures, to be able to continue the expansion that we are doing, all this, and we understand that the people, in involving the people, the process of change is not easy, but we are used to do that. Is another more change. It's another change, another type, but it's another change. So engaging in the proper way, like we did for other things, the result is good. So I think in the process of doing this, we have both. But the issue that is harder to solve, that we didn't find yet the solution, we are optimistic on this. We believe it's feasible, okay? Not yet because we didn't find the solution, but has to do much more with the technology part, okay? Is where, a little bit like Reinaldo was saying, I think we hear a lot of things, but then when it comes to reality, the way to translate that in a way that gives results to us has been still hard to do. We are continuing on the process, but if I have to balance, I think would be this approach. Okay.
Nuno, I remember talking some time ago with Daniela Braga, the founder of Defined.AI, formerly known as Defined Crowd, and she was telling me, well, she lives and works in the United States, and she was telling me Europe is falling behind because we all have all these regulations over data, and that doesn't allow us to work with it. So I'd rather work and stay and develop in the United States because it's easier. So this is to address a question that comes from our audience, from Daniel Pina, and he asks, he didn't say who is asking, so I will ask you. Are the European clouds a realistic alternative to the big USA ones like AWS, Azure, etc., regarding integration and deployment tools, processing power and safety? I know this is not specifically to the point that I was doing, but I'll get there.
Okay. So I think Clara might have a word on that.
Yes, I know, and we'll get there.
Okay, so my opinion about the cloud in Europe versus the cloud in US, well, it's miles away from, so it's not comparable, I think.
So it's not really an alternative, a realistic alternative? Is that your answer?
I think it should be changed to be a realistic alternative. It's not there.
Okay.
I was recently in Berlin in an event where there were a lot of cloud providers, European cloud providers, and the size of them is, and the size and the services, so the application layer over the cloud that is being provided is way less, how do you say, strong than the hyperscalers, the normal hyperscalers. So definitely, I don't think it's there. But looking into the side of an opportunity,
Yeah.
I do think what we are facing in Europe is actually the opportunity to build something this way better than what was built with the legacy in the States. So some examples. At all the application layer that serves the data centers might be actually solved with new technology right now. I can remember one, but there's others. And this application layer over the data centers are actually critical for all the amount of applications, AI applications in particular, that will be needed to build for the next
to have
industry.
access
To have access, exactly.
Yeah, to computational power.
All that is new. All that is, so at that point, I think we're starting at zero with the States, with all the other countries, let's say like that. So we're starting because everything has to be built from scratch.
Okay.
Yeah, I also think that, and we discussed this in the morning, it's a huge, huge opportunity for Europe to become a world-class player in those fields. We have some clouds here in Europe that are really, really, really small. They are growing, but they are compliant with the legislation here in Europe. So that is nowadays even more strategic than it was 2 or 3 years ago, with all those changes in the world, with those problems of sovereignty that we are facing. So for the European Union or the European industry is a huge, huge opportunity, and it's focused on, I think that where is the money is in hardware. The most part of the money is in hardware. It's a really, really profitable industry.
And do you think that do you agree with Daniela Braga, for example, or for everybody?
Yeah, we've been discussing.
We have too much red tape, that we have too much legislation or too much protection on data, and that doesn't allow us to extract
I don't
value?
know. I truly don't know. I think I really know very well Daniela Braga. We've been discussing a lot since the beginning, and I admire her a lot. But sometimes, and it's normal, she has a very American way of thinking. Sure. And if we really want to compete in this tough world, we need to probably forget what we hear from the United States, because what they say is what they want us to do, and keep our track with legislation and with all the rules that we have, because they have really an interesting social impact that we need to tackle also when we are thinking on things of technology. You know, that's my vision. It's not a very clear vision, but we've been thinking a lot on those issues. So.
Maybe I can just say a word about this, because I didn't mention actually the legislation part in Europe. So my personal thinking about that is, when I started listening about the new AI Act, I thought, here goes another RGDP, and I actually went there and read it. And I don't think there's nothing there that is not obvious. The problem, so what I mean is, all these verticals they create for kinds of applications make sense. They do make sense. You can't use data for things that are not adequate, and AI on things that are not adequate. So I do think the framework makes sense. The problem, in my perspective, is the fines and the kind of application they are delivering. So the way they are forcing stuff to start is very European.
Reinaldo, did you live this experience? Did you find yourself in a position that you had to take a different decision or change something just because the European legislation didn't allow you to treat or to recollect that kind of data?
Not quite. We have limitations with the normal information that everybody has, GPRD, so these kind of things with the people, with the customers, with suppliers, all these things. but okay, I think we follow what regulation does mostly from the softwares and the things that we are using. So we are not dealing directly. We are users of that, and we are not involving ourselves on that discussion.
You could be treating your employees' data, for example.
We follow the rules on that. So that of course.
And it never hindered you to develop or to follow your digital roadmap.
No, so far not. Although there are countries that we are present in different geographies in Europe, and even the different countries in Europe have different rules on this that sometimes can limit a bit the things. But so far, I think nothing.
Angel, your experience, is it the same thing?
Yes, more or less the same as Reinaldo.
Let's go to the question sent to us by Catarina Pinto. Thank you so much. She did not tell us who she's asking, but it's quite the most popular question with 5 likes. So kudos to Catarina. What is your opinion on agentic systems, autonomous AI systems, in the industry? What might be the challenges and opportunities for their implementation? We could do 5 theses of doctoral studies with this question, but it's really quite interesting. And I think that agentic systems is something that we should already be preparing ourselves to discuss. So anybody wants to take any volunteer? No, please.
Definitely, I can be a volunteer for that. So, as I said, DareData is a company that starts working on professional services. We are right now around 80 people. With 75 engineers, and one of the focus that we have right now is exactly on that. So it's agentic AI, in particular in building systems that actually are reliable. So enterprise critical agentic systems, which is kind of a contradiction, right? You have these guys that do whatever they want, and you have a playground, and you have to control them. So how to control these systems? That's basically a huge challenge that we have. And I would say that we have a couple of important ones. The first thing is we have to measure. And we have to have a way to deflect problems to humans. So humans have to become supervisors and not actually doing things. This is very similar with the fact that in some centuries ago, 1 century ago, we start creating transformation lines or production lines for making parts and physical goods. We're doing that with services. We're doing that with not materialized things. So agentic AI is basically our new production lines for non-materialized services. And you can make a metaphor from the transformation lines from the beginning, which is people becoming not the doers, but the supervisors. Not the people that are actually doing the stuff, but actually looking at data and trying to understand what they can do better. That's exactly what we're trying to do. So logging all the data coming from the agentic AI is the first part. The second one is deflecting correctly to humans when they have a problem. And third of them is optimize the process. So you have to kind of inject this new data to be sure they don't repeat themselves and bring again the mistake. In the case of industry, I don't think this is very different. Honestly, I think this might be something that we can inject in the way factories work. I mean, in the logistics, in the process for decision making. I'm quite optimistic on that part.
But how do you view and this is another question by Catarina, how do you view the implementation of human supervision on AI decisions at the same time as AI systems become more and more complex?
Okay, I think I have to talk with Catarina, but basically...
Well, let's for the coffee break.
It's a really tough
for
question.
sure.
Not go down the funnel.
Exactly.
Okay. Catarina, you know where to find us and to find Nuno. So there is another very interesting question here, and also the most popular. I don't know if anyone wants to address it. With great power comes great responsibility. So how can AI calibrate properly fairness? So this is, again, an ethical question, maybe.
AI fairness?
Fairness,
Okay.
yes. So the question is, with great power comes great responsibility. So how AI can calibrate properly fairness?
Fairness.
Fairness, there's a lot of people that is working on that within companies, universities. For me, it's the first time in the history that at the same time that this crazy pace of technology and AI is running in front of us, of our eyes, at the same time there's a lot of people also tackling big issues of impact, of
Like
the
these
impact
ones.
of this technology.
Like
I think it's the first time in the world that we face that at the same time, running at the same time.
Clara, what are we going to face in the next 5 years? I know that you have some things
No,
to say
I
about
did
that. So if you could quickly sum it up, because we only have 10 minutes more,
Okay.
so we need to speed.
And now I will be short, very short on this. And we do a lot of brainstorming inside our company, mainly the three of us and with some team members. And for that, because everyone likes and talks about everything that is related with AI, and AI is not magic, AI is not a super intelligence, AI is something that can tackle real world problems and try to help us. So we are always running for this book, Super Forecasting the Art and Science of Prediction. And I did a small little exercise regarding also with this issue of Nobel Prizes and what will be the next 5 years of those breakthroughs that we really need to bring and will accelerate our industry, our academia, and our global challenges. And I have here 5 of them, okay, and I have also based on this book, the probability of this happen, okay? I gave a score.
Just be quick, please.
Okay, so of course that's the AI designed drug curing of a major disease, like of course cancer, and with a probability of 0.8. This is with, of course, with AI. AI designed new materials with incredible properties for new semiconductors or new electrolytes that will feed those batteries and this issue of energy that we have. Also the probability of 0.8. AI proof for major unsolved mathematical problems. This is an issue. This is something that there's a lot of people addressing, and here the P is 0.9. And of course, this practical fusion, nuclear fusion, and practical quantum computing that everyone talks about. I really think that in the next 5 years, the P is 0.2, and with AI will be 0.1. This is more or less what we've been discussing inside.
Thank you so much, Clara. Angel, so quickly again to you. Are we done with Industry 4.0, or is there still development to wait for?
I think someone says Industry X, so solid there. So for me, it's the same, the name. I think it is to use the digital power, and in this digitalization, it is not only modeling or AI, there is also much more technologies that take place. So I think the first thing is to start capturing the data and have that culture of data-driven. And sometimes we say, okay, that is from the past. But in industry, you can see that sometimes you are producing, and you see in the control room some temperature that is impossible, and you ask to the to the operator and say, forget, that is wrong. No, and but that pressure is no, forget, that is wrong. So how you are doing the product if everything is wrong? So it is something with experience. But what happens if we want to do more autonomous line? That is not possible because all comes from the data. So the first step is that in that organization, if you see one sensor that is wrong, someone makes a work order, and that work order is done, and it is corrected. That is the first step, because if not, as Nuno said, what we have is garbage in our data and only noise, and it is impossible to model and predict anything. So for me, that is the first clear step.
And in all roadmaps, you will have to think about data security. We also have here a question for someone really, really shy. He did not, or she did not identify. How can organizations ensure data security in this AI era? Is it harder to do that nowadays? Or is it more critical, even more?
Yes, that is critical, of course. And I think it's what we said, this IT and OT working together. That is key, because in cybersecurity, IT has more experience. In OT, normally, if you have run in your line, it's enough. So in the moment you connect your OT data with IT data, then is when the danger happens. So that you need IT department, cybersecurity department, working together with equipment that you buy for the OT side. So that is that collaboration I said at the beginning. That is key, and of course, cybersecurity is key for AI and for digitalization.
And your experience on this? Was it always since the beginning in your roadmap, the cybersecurity issue?
Yes, but of course needs to be, and I think we are more and more exposed, but I also believe that everybody is much more aware also. So in that matter, I think we might be better now, although we have more doors open and we are letting a lot of things coming, but there are also better tools and more tools to manage that. Okay?
For example, do you store critical data on cloud, on premise?
We store on cloud. Okay.
So your CFO prefers to pay services than to buy current assets?
Not exactly. CFO prefers not to pay anything. Okay. We pay what we need to pay, but if we can avoid paying by not doing, we should not do. Okay. But now we try different approaches. Today our ERP system is still on premises. Okay. But we have a lot of information already and critical information on the cloud. Okay. When we started the information connected with process, we have everything local, and then we start to be able to share, to be able to manage it better. We prefer to put it on a cloud, and now it's managed like that. But still we have big fights because of these costs of one and the other, and the need for internal resources to do one thing or the other. So it's not very easy to sort it out, and I think depends on each moment with the offers that are available. And with that, we are very clear. Which is more economical, we try to go for that. Okay, so we're not...
Okay, to be thankful with our audience, still with us, I'll finish my work here. We have 2 minutes with the 2 last questions from the audience. I will give like 30 seconds to everybody to closing words or to answer to this question if you feel you have something to say about it. So the questions are by 2 anonymous people. Talking about data, what is your assessment about data culture? This should be something to engage in the company. I think that the ones that are not working in the companies should address this question. It's just a suggestion. When AI is trained on AI-generated data, strange things start to happen. Should we worry about data inbreeding? So 30 seconds from now for each one of you. If you want to address one of these questions, please do. If not, your closing words. Clara, we start with you.
Can you repeat the first one, please?
The first one is, what is your assessment about data culture in the companies, I assume?
Okay. We run from data. That was also why we created this platform. So we help people to generate synthetic data. And we are totally fans of that, you know. So we are not very focused on this issue.
And when hallucinations happen because of inbreeding data?
We really don't have this kind of problems. Probably Nuno can answer better than me, because we also help people to generate data. We don't train the models and we don't test the models after. So
No.
Okay, I can address that, I think. So one thing that we have been seeing lots of times is reusability of data. So every time you do a model, you have to make all this pipeline from raw data to features. And when you finish the project, you have a lot of features that are for that project, and that's it. It doesn't make any sense. So the first thing that companies that are builders are providing is data products that serves all the initiatives inside the company. And those data products should be transversal to the company. Finance, operational, OT, everything should be transversal. Of course, security is important. But the point is, data should be taken care as products, which should be sold to other silos inside the company. I don't think I have much more to say.
Okay. Reinaldo, please. Closing remarks, or if you want to address one of these two issues about the questions. One, what is your assessment about data culture? Is there a data culture already? Is it the one that you need? What needs to change? I'm just assuming that this is the sense of who questions. Who put the question, and the other one was, I already forgot it, I archived it. The other one was,
use AI.
what do you do when you have hallucinations or things going wrong because of inbreeding data?
I think we don't feel a lot in working in the manufacturing area and with the models. Okay, if we have things that is hallucinating or not working as we would like, we don't. The impact is we have to rework and do again. So it doesn't have a really impact because it's not going outside of what we are scope that we are doing, and are most of the time offline. So it's not something in real time that will have impact on the operations. Okay, but in terms of closing comments, I think I believe that we started, I hope we had started a little bit earlier than what we did. Okay, we had this 5 years journey that is starting to have some results, but we believe that the goal for us, the dream is to have this lights out operation, okay, to have a possibility. We are a 24/7 manufacturing that ideally for having better for the people's life, for the business, is to have people that go home and don't have to do nights and weekends and all this, okay? So this social part is one of the big drivers for us to be engaged on this process. And I hope this agentic AI and all this can really start to deliver more results in the manufacturing area. Okay, so I'm enthusiastic for that, and I think we should bet on this. It's really a medium-term thing. It's not something that will happen tomorrow, but if we don't engage fast and resources immediately, then we'll take much harder to have these results. And I think really appreciate people like I told Clara and Nuno that are brave in terms of starting their own companies and betting on this, because it's really important for all of us.
Angel, the honor of closing. Key takeaways or remarks, please.
I think AI and modeling and all of these tools is clear, something that we have to work today. So if you have no too much experience, you can start from those applications that, as this morning we have matching vision, predictive maintenance. So that is a win-win. So there are a lot of experience there. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, and you can start with that, and from that start learning, and then continue with more difficult tasks or models.
Okay. That's our time. Thank you so much to you four. And thank you also for sticking around and for participating so gratefully in this roundtable. Stick around. We'll have much more this afternoon, and I hope to see you. Please, a big applause to all of our speakers.